All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Ruthless ST Radio podcast. As always, I am your host, the Ruthless ST himself, Nick Burnell. Joined with me today, this is big. This is big. Joined with me today is Nathan, Mike, Luke, and Ruchinda. Hey, I got it. Of the Bearcat Motorsports racing team, otherwise known as the Formula SAE team, Formula SAE team of the University of Cincinnati. So, guys, how you doing this week?
Doing good.
I don't know how many of you guys are like me and you're going to gear up and go to Daytona this weekend.
I don't think any of us are going to Daytona, but I know that I usually stay up all night to watch the race. I usually don't with Le Mans, but for Daytona, I'll usually try to stay up as long as possible.
Oh
The
yes.
longest I've made it is 14 hours. I usually end up passing out at some point in the middle of the night, but I've got the live timing pulled up on my laptop, all that stuff. I love that race.
So I'm hoping that because I'm actually going to be there, I will be able to be hashtag Team No Sleep. I'm hoping. I don't
Yeah, well,
know. I don't know how that's going to
you're
go, but
both.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, I've
So,
always wanted to go. So yeah, I'm jealous, man. That sounds like that's gonna be a really good time.
yeah, unfortunately for me, it's going to be cold. Like, like almost as cold as here cold during the evening. Um, so I'm crossing my fingers and hoping to die that it doesn't rain like it always does during the 24 at night specifically. So we'll see what happens. So that kind of leads me into this quick point. Be on the lookout this week. I'm going to maybe give daily reports. I know I'll at least give a report on Friday for the Michelin Pilot Challenge race. And I will also be doing at least one, if not two or three, reports during the race. And you'll find those here on wherever you can get your podcast. And I'm also going to do hopefully a video version, and that will end up on YouTube at RuthlessST TV. So make sure you guys subscribe to all of that. Also, I am going to be, I will have my trusty dusty phone gimbal. And there will also be some YouTube videos, some pure sound stuff as well, so be on the lookout for all of that. However, that's not why we're here this week. We're here because um, FSAE, at least to me, has always kind of intrigued me as a car guy, right? So who better to go to than an FSAE team? So guys, I guess to start out, what is Formula SAE?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, do you
so
want to?
Formula SAE is a student organization within SAE. For our particular competition, we build a open wheel race car. You could almost say it's like a scale model of an Indy car. And we R&D the entire car, research and design the entire car, all in-house for the majority. There are certain things we have to outsource because we are just a college, but for the most part, the engineering is done here, and then the assembly, the design of the entire car done here, and then we test it out and race it at the end of the year.
Well,
And SAE stands for Society of Automotive Engineers.
nice. Well, I know because and I actually didn't know UC had a FSAE team until oh God, was it last year or the year before? I was at Traders World and they were doing a Drive Auto X event, and
Yeah.
I know that local FSAE teams because I've been to the one at Grissom as well. I know that local FSAE teams get a nice sizable donation, and you guys work the course. And I did see some of you guys working the course at that particular event. That was quite wet.
Yeah, we test up there at the at Traders World when they have those local events.
So I gotta ask, is the autocross nut, what class is the car in?
It comes on the open wheel. Special. I can't remember. One of those comes.
So it's something like because I know that's SCCA, so it's something like a prepared class car probably.
Yeah. I imagine it'd be something.
Yeah, it comes on. It has a whole class. It has an FSA class by itself.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so what we build the car for, the competition we build it for, is just all FSAE teams from actually across the country. It's not just the U.S., so we're racing these big teams from Germany as well. But
nice.
Up in Traders World is mostly just for us to practice. We don't enter it for any competition there. That's
Right.
just us in the car and
Nice.
I'm behind the wheel.
So I guess that kind of leads into the next question because you kind of mentioned it. How many other schools in the country have FSAE programs?
It's a hard number because only 120 teams get to participate, but there are more than 120 teams. But in the US, there could be pretty much every university, any technical or public university probably has an FSAE team. If you just take Ohio alone, you have Cincinnati, OSU, Akron, a bunch of them. So pretty much every major university has their own FSAE team.
Nice.
And we just compete in FSA North America, and that includes the competition in Michigan, Canada, and Nevada. So there's also competitions in Australia, UK, FSA Germany. So it all just depends on how much money you have to ship your car and to take part in these competitions. So it's an amazing experience.
So kind of related to that because I did a little homework myself, and I know there's kind of like two parts to the FSAE team. There's like the actual, like, everybody works on the car, right? So the engineers, the drivers, the team, and then there's also a business side to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that context, that's where an FSAE team is a really good way. Being on an FSAE team is a really good way not only to learn the engineering side of the sport, but the business side as well. Essentially, it allows people who are, people such as myself, who are looking to go into the marketing and the business side of the sport to, start doing, if you're looking to go into, acquiring sponsors, you can start doing that, in college on the team. And it gives you, it sort of gives you that segue into the sport. There's sort of two sides to it, but they work, obviously in conjunction with each other because we're all trying to go racing, right?
Well, yeah. So, where do I want to go with this? Oh, so how many members are on? Obviously, it's going to vary from school to school, right? Because like for example, the population of OSU is way bigger than the population of UC, I'd imagine. So, I guess how many members are there on a team?
There isn't really a fixed number. That line could change. It just depends on how many people are interested in it. So I've been in teams where we just had 9 members only, and up to a maximum of 40 people. So the more the merrier, I guess.
And one thing to note on that is the club is generally consisted of seniors because it counts towards their senior design credit within the College of Engineering. We have a lot of underclassmen help as well, but they kind of float in and out as they go. We do have some solid underclassmen that stay year-round and actually do up to a senior level, if not more, senior level work for the club. It's kind of open to everyone, and we're kind of trying to round it in a way for the future to where people from other colleges, not just the engineering college, can kind of use it as a capstone credit or their final credit when they're graduating.
And that is a big separating factor with Bearcat Motorsports as compared to other FSAE teams. You got to note that most of these teams are only open to engineers taking it as a class. Now it's not to say that they aren't clubs. A lot of them are clubs, so you can still join. You can still, if you're a business major, for example, you can still go in and help run the marketing side, do the accounting, do those jobs for the team. But you're not going to be given any official class credit. whereas at the University of Cincinnati, we are one of few schools to actually allow business majors to take this as a class and get class credit for it as a senior capstone.
That's pretty awesome. So I guess that kind of leads in. So it's a club sport, basically.
Sure.
Cool.
Yes, it would be defined as a club from the university standards versus like a sporting team like football or basketball or whatever. So anybody can join at any time, and we welcome anyone at any point in time.
Well, as the saying goes, and Nathan, I'm sure you know this from past experiences, just outside, even outside of the team, right? There's something for everybody in the motorsports hobby or the motorsports business,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Definitely.
which is awesome, I think. So let's talk about let's talk a little bit about how the team operates.
Sure.
How would you compare operations to, say, like for example, an IMSA team or a NASCAR team?
Well, I would say the operations of at least our FSAE team are a lot more democratic than the operations of an IMSA or a NASCAR team. For example, what we'll do is around once or twice a week we'll have club meetings, and during those meetings we'll go over any issues that we might be having with any department in respect to design or the business side of the car. The most adequate way that I can describe it is it's sort of like having a State of the Union address every weekend, every Thursday, with a race team where each department goes up and explains their progress throughout the week, and we sort of go through any hurdles that we have. I think that'd be a pretty good
So
way.
these departments he's mentioning, so we're split up between, we have a main team lead, and then we're split up between our sub teams. So we have our engine team, our suspension team, frame, business team, and every little subsection of the car has their own team and respective team lead to present those points.
Yep. And to go on to how it might compare to a NASCAR team or an IMSA team, on a lot of these IMSA teams and NASCAR teams, usually everything is facilitated by, they'll have, a set of business people, and it really depends. I would say that, like, if you were, it's sort of a tough comparison, but
Sure.
if you were to compare it to an IMSA team, you're not going to be having these addresses each week on those teams, because usually, for one, it's a spec sport. So with IndyCar, you're not going to have you're not going to need your aero team or your suspension team to make presentations each week, because they're not really designing anything. A lot of those guys are just tuning the car for either rebuilding or tuning the car for the race weekend. So there's not going to be that kind of thing. And obviously, it's run by one guy. There's the team owner. So usually it's not going to be like a really democratic process, right? If there's something that they don't like about the performance of the car, if they're it's usually it's not it really doesn't need to be as democratic in in NASCAR or IMSA, because you're not designing the car, right?
Right.
You're more or less just your concerns are surrounded by are your drivers getting solid sim time so that they can deal with anything that they're going to be running into on the circuit that weekend. Do you if you're an IndyCar, are you getting the right information from Chevy, or well, now it's going to be Dallara on your aero kit. You have those sort of minute things put together. So would that be a good? Was that an adequate way to answer that question?
Oh, yes. I would say yes. That question was answered, and it was answered in some very good detail. But that's pretty awesome. So that kind of leads us into the next one, and this was kind of the one that I'm excited for the most as a gearhead. Let's talk about the car a little bit. So, do you guys make a car every year?
Yeah, so the car is a 1-year design cycle. Once it's entered into competition once, it cannot be used again. So we typically create a new car every year. Now, given COVID, the last couple of years, we haven't done that. So the car we're on now has kind of been in the works for 2 to 3 years.
So, how much? We'll skip that one. How much of the regulations are spec versus how much design liberty do you guys have?
So we have to design a car based on a set of rules given by FSAE, but it's an engineering competition, right? So it's how do you take those rules and how do you build a car that basically achieves all those rules and still performs the best. So we are given liberties on however much we want to design, but it has to stick to certain parameters designated by FSA ruling body, just like in Formula One.
Yeah, so there's ways for us to engineer, not necessarily around the rules, but in a way that we can still perform with those rules in place. So that's the engineering part of it.
And it tends to be a lot more radical even than Formula One in terms of the looseness of the regulations, right? Because this is effectively an engineering competition because they want you, so they're encouraging you to be as creative as possible. So again, this is coming from someone who is a business major, so take anything that I say with a grain of salt. You get to see when at least I've seen these competitions on YouTube and I've looked into the cars. You'll see some really, really radical designs, and that sort of showcases the lengths in which the sanctioning body will allow you to go in terms of getting creative with the car. Now, we have our team lead, Sam. I think he wants to say something. He's the overall team lead this year. So I think he wants to jump in for a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like touching on what Ruchi said about it being a design competition, about how Dave was saying that it's they encourage you to be think new ideas and you create new things. In 2019, our car actually won an innovation award because we worked with GE, I believe their aerospace division or their additive manufacturing, and we 3D printed our uprights out of titanium, and then since it's a space frame car, we need to either fish mouth cut our tubes, but what we did for that year is we actually 3D printed out of stainless steel our nodes, so that kind of cut down the process of putting the car together. It cut down our assembly and welding time, and it actually made a better car because it's more set and there's less ambiguity putting it together. So that was something that the judges really liked. We won an award for that. And again, it's like we always saying, at the end of the day, it's a design competition. The car is just the medium. So there's a lot of design, analyze, then you verify through your physical tests, and that's physically building the car. And so there's I don't know how much we've talked about the competition, but there is a specific set of dynamic events that are your driving, your skid pad, your endurance, and everything, and then you have about a third of your points at the end of the year are design competitions of proving this is why we did this. We tried A, we tried B. Here's why we think B would be better given our simulation data, and here's how we verified that B is better. So that's just kind of a little bit more insight on what the competition is, kind of how that ties into we build a new car every year because we are designing, and that's what the competition is. The competition isn't get a fast car, even though that is the quote unquote goal. It's design a fast car. So it's don't improve the last one, but improve the design of the last one.
So, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of useful information. Give me 1 sec to digest that. While I'm digesting that, because it's a design competition, right? And I know there's OEMs that look at what you guys do at competitions and stuff like that. Do you think, given the way that the car market's going and how everybody's pushing hybridization, do you think that'll eventually trickle down into Formula SAE?
In many ways, it already has. There is actually a hybrid competition that you can do in the SAE. We also have an EV team operating as well. They're building a car. So, it definitely has. It already has. And we are already conducting operations to that front.
Wow. Ahead of the curve.
And just to add to that, like the whole FSA competition is the world's largest engineering competition in the world. So that right there just shows you how big of like an outreach this program is.
Well, and that kind of leads great into our next topic, which is how does an event work? So what's kind of the I guess,
so
go for it.
Yeah, we show up, and it's usually a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so a 3-day event, and we have what we call dynamic and static events. Dynamic is worth 675 points, static is worth 325 points, and so we have a total of 1,000 points, kind of a third, and then 2/3. So our static is we have to pass a technical inspection, and then we go through and we present a cost analysis, like I said, for our design, why we chose A over B and verified that. And so we actually do that for kind of each separate thing. And then our dynamic is we have a skid pad, which is not really the typical skid pad. It's almost a perfectly circular figure 8 that you go for time. And so it actually is very driver dependent. It's not just you go till you lose traction. You actually have to be able to drive the car right on your grip limit the entire time you're driving, which is, I think also a testament to some of the drivers that go through that is, you can't just design a car that sticks to the ground. It has to be drivable, and you have to, know the car. And so then also we do an acceleration, very similar to a drag race. Then we do an autocross and then an endurance, with the endurance just being a longer format autocross that has a couple longer straights. You do 15, it's usually over a minute long, and then you do 15 laps with your driver A, and then do 15 laps with your driver B. And after that, they also do fuel consumption. So that is an efficiency and endurance to make sure the car can complete it in that amount of time.
So how does it weight? So for example, how does doing better on the skid pad compare to doing not as good in either the autocross or the endurance event? Or how does how also would the technical inspection and tests factor into the overall score?
Well, you want me to give you the raw numbers?
Go for it.
So our static events is we have a design that's 150 points, a cost and manufacturing analysis, which is 100, and our presentation for it all, which is 75. So that all gets judged, and that's roughly a third of our points, 325 points. And then we go to our dynamic events, and that's acceleration's 100, skid pad is 75. Our autocross is 125, which is technically our largest point value, but then you look and it's our second highest. Then you have your fuel economy, which is 100. That's also tied in with our endurance, which is 275. So obviously our endurance and our autocross are like our two main things that accounts for actually 500 of our points right there. So that is half the competition, is driving through endurance, getting good fuel economy, and then performing well in the autocross. Not to say everything else isn't important, like you can completely fail tech inspection and then your only points are in your static, your design, and your cost analysis and everything. But definitely, like most places, the actual true dynamic events of driving and, fast driving endurance is kind of our metric of how well the car does.
That's pretty cool. How do you guys select who drives the car?
Whoever gets the fastest time. The only fair way to do it.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
We everyone wants to drive the car. I mean, there is some participation aspect in there,
Mm-hmm.
And like you can't just come in and say I want to drive the car and only drive the car as a freshman. Like we will give priority to someone who's been on the team for a little bit longer and who has actually contributed.
Sure.
But generally, you have to be contribute to some part of the car, and that just helps. I think it helps you drive better anyway to understand the car. How does it work? What will the car do in this situation versus the other? And you can get all that with driving, but we have a limited time frame. You have about 2 months after you get the car running and built to actually drive it. So we wait it a little bit, but it's generally who can perform the fastest. Someone who does acceleration is generally going to be a small, lighter person because they can do that. And autocross and endurance are usually people who have a lot more experience and We have someone on the team this year that's been karting since they were 8. He's been on the team, 3 years now, I think, and he's one of our underclassmen liaisons because he's very invested in the club. But he's been doing track days for years, and he's very good at instructing people. But he's generally a hot shoe inside the car because he understands the cars. He works on them. He tears them apart, puts them all back together, and he has the times to prove that.
So how many events do you guys do per year?
So it's usually one. We'll do 1 to 2. So we'll go up to Michigan and we'll run there. But I believe there's also an event in California that we may be trying to go to. Is that confirmed or is that
Nevada?
Yeah, so there are 3 competitions. Also, you could say a 4th competition. So if you take the SAE body, there is Michigan, which is basically the biggest FSAE competition. Then you have Canada and Nevada, but there's a lot of COVID-related issues and a lot of things have changed this year, as you know. In addition to that, there is a competition in Pittsburgh called the Pittsburgh Shootout. It's just an autocross event only, and it's an unofficial FSA event. So a bunch of teams get together and they meet up at Pennsylvania in Pittsburgh, and it's just a shootout. So the fastest car gets an award in that. So it's like a fun event, but sort of official over a span of 2 days.
Lets you test stuff like see if your car lights on fire, which happened to us this year.
Did it really?
Yeah, so we originally run a carbureted engine, and we actually switched to fuel injected, and so we had some issues with the way the intake manifold was passed. I'm sure you're familiar with the broomstick test.
Sure.
So we performed something similar to that, but on the rear, and our intake was protruding past that. So we shaved down the intake nub that fit into the rubber carburetor grommet, and we shaved it down a little bit too far. And so we actually were hitting the fuel injector nub, so we were not a perfect circle. That backed out and sprayed E85 directly onto the hot engine.
Ooh.
That was.
Ooh.
But one of the things you have to do is you have to be able to drive. You have to be able to get out of, be in the car, have it on, and turn it off.
Right.
Unstrap yourself and get both feet on the ground within 5 seconds of turning off the car. So
Oh, wow.
that's one of the safety regulations. I mean, we wear full fire suits, we wear everything, but that's kind of part of the fun of competition, right?
Right. So what is your engine based on, I guess?
So I'm actually the I'm actually the engine team lead. So I know a fair amount about it. We use a YFZ 450 engine, which is the Yamaha ATV. And ours currently is bored out to about the biggest we can get it. We're running some just off-the-shelf cams in it. And from there, we do some modifications to the transmission. For our type of shifting we were doing a sequential pattern instead of, motorcycles are always sequential, but we're moving the neutral from in the middle of the shift pattern down to the bottom, like a motorcycle would standardly have. This year we're looking at getting the head port and polished and doing some more work with the engine to make a little more power. But we actually have, not on campus, but one of university-owned buildings, we have a dyno facility. So we're lucky enough that we can do a lot of testing on our engines.
That's pretty freaking cool. Not gonna lie.
It is.
That's also pretty cool that you can take. So you use the ATV engine and the trans.
Yeah, so I don't know how familiar you are with small engines like motorcycles or ATVs. A lot of times they're permanently connected. You can't take them apart.
Right.
I mean, you can, but you can't run them separately.
Right.
So, yeah, we do use the normal transmission from it.
And then you just put it in like a rear end kind of differential.
Yeah, we do have a differential. We run a chain to a differential, and from there we do the 2 wheels.
Nice. So I noticed I was on your website, and looks like 2 different cars. There's one without giant wings, and then there's one with giant wings.
Yeah, so that's us building a new car every year, and each year the team gets to decide what they want to do. So the one without the wings is probably our 2017 car, if I had to guess, and that team decided they didn't want aero on the car. They'd rather focus on other designs. And then Our most recent cars that we have in the shop right now are our 19 and our current one, the 22. They both have big aero packages because the teams have decided they like the benefit of the aero.
So basically, at the beginning of the year, you guys kind of decide what elements you want to focus on versus what you don't.
Right.
Nice.
And we can change that as time goes on, but
Right.
knowledge we have on aero, some people like it, some people don't. So.
Well, as any big car person, including myself, will tell you, aero is a complicated beast.
Yeah, our
and I'm sure as
that.
engineering students, it's even more complicated because you guys go into even more depth.
Yeah, the aero on our cars is fully calculated and simulated. There's a lot that goes into it.
How do you guys do some simulations? Do you do like wind tunnel stuff?
I believe that's been done in the past. We have had. I'm not. We don't have any aero guys in here, sadly, so we can't speak too far on it. But Ruchi, do you know a little more?
Usually what we do is we run the simulations on Star CCM, and we've also in the past attached little threads on the body of the car and watched it as it drove using GoPro cameras. The thing is, like, it's
the old school.
Yeah, it's financially quite a big deal to get a wind tunnel because wind tunnel like renting times are way beyond our budget. It's
Sure.
really good, but you could always just do the old school method of like attaching strings on it and see the airflow. But it's also fun driving the car in the rain, where you could really see the vortices like being generated.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah, all the rooster tails and stuff would give you that visual data that you're looking for.
Yeah, and to add to that, we also have added VDTs and like sensors on the suspension, see how much downforce is produced by these aerodynamic devices on and off. Also, we've tested the effect of the aerodynamic devices on skid pad testing and autocross track to see how much of a gain in downforce on performance and track times. So we've figured different methods of like validating why we need to have aero and why not. So that's where the engineering comes into play.
How much? So, like, you guys have telemetry obviously throughout the car. How much of that is off the shelf versus you gotta get something from off the shelf and adapt it to what you need it to do?
Almost everything I feel like is adapted from off the shelf.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, one of the things I'm working on right now is an intake manifold, and we'll buy a throttle body off a shelf, but from there, the runners and the plenum and everything like that is fully calculated and designed in-house.
Oh, wow. So basically the only thing off the shelf that you're using is the actual body of the part.
Yeah, for that particular part, yeah.
Wow. That mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing to me that is happening in college. I mean, I guess it shouldn't.
So another example is speaking on engine side too. Some teams will buy mufflers that are made for like these ATVs, and they'll use those to muffle their sound. We actually have a sound requirement on how loud they can be. So some teams will do that. Other teams, like what we do, is we fully design our own muffler, and make our own muffler for the car that meets the sound requirement as well as makes the power we want.
Wow. That's very awesome.
Yeah, those are things that I've always thought have been pretty cool about it.
Because, like, I knew... Because the company my dad works for makes testing solutions and actually sponsors the University of Minnesota's FSAE team. So, I kind of knew stuff like that existed. Because, I mean, my dad works for MTS Systems, and they make sensors and all sorts of stuff. But I didn't know, like, how... Man, I never thought I'd be struggling for words on my podcast. I never knew how that sort of engineering went into car design. and how all that linked together, I guess would be the good way to put it. So that's
really getting an in-depth look at it. I mean, we're a small little bit of the car engineering world. I mean, if you think about how a full size car is designed,
right.
It's pretty crazy to see.
That is, yeah.
When we were at PRI, one thing I in particular noticed was a lot of the lead engineers at these big companies that I was talking to had previously done FSAE in their college years.
So let's talk about that, actually. Is this the first year you guys have gone to PRI and had a booth?
Yes.
Yep.
What was your takeaway from this year at PRI?
Well, I mean, I guess that would be a good question. I mean, I guess that might be a question that, I mean, everybody could individually answer if we could.
Yeah, so
go for it.
I'll start. I guess we'll go left to right here. I'll start. So for me, PRI, I mean, I absolutely loved going to it as a gearhead. As far as a smart move for the club, it cost us a lot of money to go. And I think we were hoping for sponsorships from that, and I don't think we got as many as we wanted. But we did get a lot of good exposure. A lot of the seniors got to talk to companies in the automotive world that they might want to work for. So that was all awesome. The connections we got to see, the knowledge we got from some guys. I mean, we had these old FSAE, people who are now at these big companies. They were telling us some stuff that their teams did and some little tidbits of information that they remembered that actually could be helpful for us. So from all of that, it's good, but our intentions of going for sponsorship and getting our name out there probably weren't exactly what we expected. But the overall benefit was still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty solid answer. Yeah, I think that it went pretty well. We decided to get a booth going our first year, just because we wanted to get our name out there and we wanted to get the the FSAE out there. I mean, even though we knew that a lot of those people were in or had been in the FSAE, we just kind of, we looked at the floor plan and saw that there were no other FSAE teams that were going to be attending. Well, eventually Purdue did, but they got their booth like really, really last minute, so they weren't on the plan. But yeah, I think it was a great opportunity to go out and meet potential employers. And we have some sponsorships that we're working on with it, but nothing's really come to fruition yet. So yeah, I really agree with Mike. So it went well. We met a lot of great prospective employers, but maybe next year we could just end up attending as attendees versus a booth, or get a smaller booth. But it's really going to depend. With this business, you never really know until a couple of months, once some of the deals have either gone through or fallen through, that's when you sort of know where you're at. So, yeah, but overall, I think it was a good experience.
I would say my takeaway on PRI was probably you got out of it what you put into it. So if you went into PRI with the mindset that you were going to go talk to booths and you were going to go learn something while you had free time from our booth to go do those things, I think that's where you're going to see the most benefit from going. It did cost us a lot of money to go out there. But like everything else in racing, a gamble's a gamble, and you got to back it.
And to sort of add to Luke's point before Ruchinda jumps in, I think that if there would have been a year to do it, this was definitely the year. The car is for the most part finished. It is running months earlier than usual, which means our design budget is a lot less than it would be any other year. Even though the market has taken a hit, it's still at all-time highs. So these companies are doing really well, which means that they're hiring and they're looking for, and they might be potentially looking to sponsor teams, or at the very least, they might be more open to parts, to partnerships on parts. So, it definitely seemed like if there was going to be a year to go, it was going to be this year. And I think in the coming months, when as the world continues to open back up from this, from the Omicron variant, we might see some of these deals go through. So, but that's me. I'm the business major of the group, so it's my job to say that. So, but yeah.
I agree with you.
So, but yeah, Ruchinda says that he sort of agrees with the sentiment. So,
Yeah, I started going to PRI because not only do we race my ST, but we also have a C5 Z06 Corvette.
That's a nice car. That's a nice car.
Yeah, it's
And
also
my dad-
Millennium Yellow, which is
Really?
yes.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna
if
try
you
to.
go for it.
Yeah, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but my dad had a Millennium Yellow convertible C5 when I was little. I've still got the picture of me being picked up from school in the first grade in that car, and we actually went to Bowling Green to watch it go down the assembly line. So
That's cool.
it's really cool that you guys are running a C5. That car holds a lot of a lot of really good memories for me.
So, but a lot of what we do, like this year, we're focused on some top end work. So we went and we talked to Chevy Performance, Scoggin Dickey, Parts Center, Texas Speed, and CHE. And we actually ended up picking up the CHE trunnion kit, the trunnion bearing kit. So we're gonna do a cam, we're gonna do trunnion bearings, just some top end kind of longevity stuff. But also we're gonna make a little bit more power. Nothing too crazy, but enough to where it takes the car out of a street and puts it into cam. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the SCCA rules for autocross, but basically we're taking it out of the stock class and putting it into a run what you brung class. So that's what's going on. So we're doing lifters and all that stuff too. But we go typically every year. I'll focus on an area for my car, and I'll focus on an area for the vet. Or we'll do like last year we did a lot of research on my car, which I don't know why, but I can never find stuff for the ST. And the ST is a very widely raced car. I still don't understand why. But we can definitely find information on the C5. That's not hard. Just got to know who to talk to. So that's typically why we go. And if I happen to talk to someone that wants to sit down and do one of these shows, that's great. That's typically why I go to PRI. And I also go as a motorsports fan because a lot of the like NASCAR usually has a booth, etc. So it's always nice to go look at awesome race cars.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But well, that was a mind-blowing interview, I'd say. I don't have very many of those anymore. But guys, this was awesome. Definitely I hope we can do some more stuff in the future. I know, Nathan, you were talking to me briefly about some other things maybe we can do, and I hope to be able to do those. And is there anything you guys want to say before we hop on out of here?
Appreciate the time, man.
Hey, anytime. And anytime you guys want to come back, y'all just let me know.
Will do. Thank you so much, Nick. And I mean, we like Luke was saying, we appreciate the time. We appreciate having the chance to open up our sport to a new audience. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. And like I said, top of the show, everybody make sure you guys keep an eye out for my Daytona 24 coverage this week. And I will see you next time. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Thanks. You too.